Shabbat Shalom. What does righteousness look like today? What does righteousness look like in the face of evil? On this Shabbat, as we carry the deep pain of the impacts of terrorism and anti-Semitism, as we mourn the loss of innocent life, and as we stand in solidarity with Israel, what do we believe it means to be an exemplar of righteousness in this critical moment? In this week's Torah portion, Noach, God becomes outraged by humanity's evil, fuming with anger and disappointment over the cruelty of human beings polluting the world. God plans to flood the earth, destroying humanity, but not all humanity. God chooses one person, one righteous individual, Noah, whose life will be spared, along with his family and 2 of every creature. Following God's instructions, Noah builds an ark and seeks shelter as the flood wipes out the entire world around him. Now, Torah teaches that Noah walked with God. Noah's life was spared because he was the most righteous person of his generation. How many people do you think he was really up against? Infected by evil, Noah's generation wasn't exactly overflowing with mensches. Perhaps Noah appeared righteous in comparison to others, but the bar wasn't very high. Noah may have been as righteous as anyone in his generation was capable of being. But how much does that really say? As we study this Torah portion in our own time, we ask ourselves, is Noah an exemplar of righteousness for us to emulate today? Throughout the story of the flood, Noah fails to act in a righteous manner. Noah protects his family, but does not speak up on behalf of anybody else. Does Noah plead with God to spare innocent lives? No. Does Noah warn his community, share his resources, help others to build arks of their own? Certainly not. Focused on his own family, Noah refuses to help anyone else prepare for impending doom. Minding his own business, he remains indifferent to the pain of others. He doesn't even express sorrow or regret over humanity's destruction. Why does Noah act this way? Why? The sacred text Toldot Yitzchak teaches that Noah remains silent because he doesn't believe that God is really going to make the flood. Underestimating the severity of the situation, he chooses not to speak up. The Talmud contains a passage from Rabbi Berachia explaining that although Noah walked with God, his piety did not extend to a concern about the welfare of others. Again, we ask ourselves, is Noah an exemplar of righteousness for us to emulate today? No, he is not. As Rabbi Mordechai Yaffe puts it, Noah's righteousness bore the stamp of mediocrity. It did. In fact, a Mishnaic passage argues that if Noah lived in the generation of Abraham, he would have been accounted of no particular importance and certainly not considered righteous. An exemplar of righteousness lives by a moral compass. They use their values, words, and actions to create a just world and a kinder humanity. They unequivocally stand up against injustice as they work for tikkun olam, the healing of the world. In the last 2 weeks, our hearts have been broken as we've witnessed unimaginable atrocities. In the last 2 weeks, we've experienced a deafening silence from all of those who have not spoken up against terrorism and named it for exactly what it is. And in the last 2 weeks, I believe that we have witnessed righteousness. We have witnessed it in the actions and speeches of President Biden, who in front of the world embraced the Jewish people and spoke out against Hamas's terrorist attacks, declaring them the worst attacks on the Jewish people since the Holocaust. Biden encouraged Israel to lead by its values and honor innocent lives as best as it can. Biden urged Americans to understand the importance of supporting Israel. We have witnessed remarkable righteousness in the brave IDF soldiers who have given their lives to save their people and protect our precious state of Israel. We have witnessed righteousness in those who resist equating Hamas with all Palestinians, in those who see the humanity in innocent civilians being used as human shields by this terrorist regime. America is showing righteousness by both providing Israel with the means to defend itself and by providing humanitarian aid to civilians in Gaza. We have witnessed righteousness in those benevolent souls, many of them are in this sanctuary, who have given generously, sharing their resources during this horrific time. Righteousness has come from those who refuse to remain silent, from all of those who have taken the time to call their Jewish friends, families, and neighbors to check on them and provide support. Righteousness has been shown by those screaming for justice, condemning Hamas's terrorism, and refuting those who are blaming Israel or defending the heinous actions of Hamas. Righteousness has been shown by those denouncing both anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. And righteousness has been displayed in those giving everything they have to help Israel protect its citizens and rescue its hostages. During this petrifying time, righteousness shines light into devastating darkness. And yet, we also know that righteousness is lacking and that we need a lot more of it. According to mystical tradition, there are 36 righteous individuals living on earth, holding up our world with their goodness and generosity. These 36 individuals are known as Lamed Vavniks. Say that with me. Lamed Vavniks. We want to be them. Tradition teaches that these Lamed Vavniks are critical to the existence of humanity, and that as long as their righteousness continues to inspire light and hope in the world will continue to go on. We don't know who they are. They don't even know who they are, but God knows who they are. Tradition teaches us to live our lives as though we are each Lamed Vavniks, carrying this sacred responsibility to hold up the world by being righteous, by acting with deep regard for the good of humanity. This is a heavy responsibility, and yet each of us is made B'Tselem Elohim, with a divine spark of holiness inside our soul that can fuel us to rise up to this potential that we didn't know that we were capable of even reaching. Each of us is capable of rising up to a level of righteous living that soars high above mediocrity. How can we be righteous today? Psalm 37 states, "The righteous is generous and keeps giving. We must keep giving. As days pass, as weeks go by, we might feel exhausted, depleted, unable to follow the news or continue engaging in conversations about Israel. We must stay educated and informed. We must keep giving with generous hearts because our money, our resources, and our concern are desperately needed. How can we be righteous today? The Talmud teaches the righteous must be a lover of human beings. We must continue to value the dignity of each and every human being. How can we be righteous today? By using our voice and speaking up, by refusing to be silent. Elie Wiesel taught, silence encourages the tormentor, never the tormented. Wherever men and women are persecuted because of their race, religion, or political views, that place must at that moment become the center of the universe. There may be times when we are powerless to prevent injustice, but there must never be a time where we fail to protest against injustice. May our righteousness encourage us to speak up in tough conversations with those who may not share our views. In these conversations, may our righteousness inspire us to share our truth while being patient and respectful with others as we engage with them in an open and honest dialogue. These conversations matter. They really do. Many of us have felt lonely, wondering why our friends who are not Jewish have not engaged us in these conversations or checked on us to see how we are coping. May we find the courage to approach them, to share with them our feelings, and to help them understand how critical the situation in Israel is for the Jewish people and for the entire world. Look, we have a role to play here. We have a responsibility to stand in solidarity with Israel. And while we may not agree with everything that Israel does politically or every decision that Israel makes, we must support the Jewish homeland. We must understand that what is happening in Israel and what is happening in Gaza impacts us all. Not only must we protect our people and the lives of all innocent individuals, we must protect the security of human beings all over the world who are threatened by terrorism. As Rabbi Abraham Isaac Cook taught, the purely righteous do not complain about darkness, but increase light. They don't complain about evil, but increase justice. They don't complain about heresy, but increase faith. And they don't complain about ignorance, but they increase wisdom. May each of us dedicate our time, resources, and hearts to increasing light, justice, faith, and wisdom in our world today. While Noah's righteousness bore the stamp of mediocrity, may our righteousness bear the stamp of holiness as we live by the moral imperative to drive out terrorism, to combat injustice, and to create a world radiating with freedom, dignity, and respect for every individual. Am Yisrael Chai, and Shabbat Shalom.